Good day, everyone. My name is Rona Meyer, and welcome to my presentation. Today we will be discussing ethical teaching. We will look and focus more on the teacher's ethical practice. So let's get to it. The Code of Ethics for Educators. Um, let's have a look at a few of the bullet points. Educators should put students first. They should help a student. Maybe if they're having personal problems at home, they have to put their emotions aside and come to work. They should show up and be prepared for the class and also be excited to deliver the lesson. If they are not excited and they just get into the room and they're in a foul mood, then the class is not going to be excited about the lesson, and probably no one is going to enjoy today's class. Then a classroom should provide safety. A teacher should be accepting of others and ensure that their classroom is a safe space. It will help students to be more open towards the teacher. If they are experiencing any problems or if they are behind with a lesson and they don't grasp the information. And then we will look at promoting and upholding healthy relationships. This now combines with the next bullet point, because I'm referring to not only the students, but with, their fellow teachers. They should focus on building strong relationships, not only with the school staff, but with the parents as well, and create a trusting bond with them. With their relationships, it's very important that, a teacher does not abuse a student's trust or his relationship, for personal gain. You will break trust, and it could be very traumatizing for a student moving on, trusting again, trusting another teacher. And then lastly, teachers must keep from discussing private information. This is very important because not only in, the best scenario, they break someone's trust, and but for the most horrible notion, it will get them into legal trouble. So never discuss a student or a fellow staff member. That is an example of a teacher that is putting aside her emotional baggage or any problems that she is experiencing to be professional and show up and consult the student that is definitely struggling. How do we make ethical decisions? I want to talk about James Rest here, a well-known researcher. He developed a model of ethical behavior that is based on presumption that there are 4 steps in moral development that lead to ethical action. Rest asserted that ethical actions are not the outcome of a single decision process, but result from a combination of cognitive structures and psychological processes. We will get into that later. We'll discuss it so it will be more easier to understand. Now, the 4-component model describes the cognitive process that individuals use in ethical decision making. Okay, so in other words, it shows how an individual first recognizes an ethical dilemma when something isn't going right, and then continues by applying moral judgment. That is what you are being learned at home. We'll get to that. They engage in moral motivation and act ethically to carry out moral intent with moral action. Stay with me, we'll get there. Before diving in to the 4 steps, I quickly just want to say that it is very important to know that ethics differ from morals. They might sound the same, but it is different in a way that ethics are your external rules. So you don't go into something that you know is ethically, it's frowned upon by society, let's call it that. And, even though you might not think that it is wrong, the normality of it is wrong, and you have to obey that. And morals, on the other hand, is what you are being taught by your family. It's your personal principles. It is what you think would be the right thing, what you think would be the right way to act in a situation. And yes, this rarely change. It is something that is embedded in you from child to adulthood, and it is less likely to change. So let's move on. The first one is moral sensitivity. Okay, the first step in moral behavior requires that the individual interpret the situation as moral. Okay, the simplest way is to apply the golden rule. In other words, whenever your actions affect other moral issues exist. So whenever your actions affect others, moral issues exist. This is not just you. This is now affecting someone else's moral. And what did we say about morals? It is what the parents provide them. It is the ideal of what is right to them. So if a person does not have the ability to recognize that their action affects the welfare of others, it would be impossible to make an ethical decision when faced with a moral dilemma. If that person does not think that they did anything wrong, then there will be no moving forward. Moral judgment. This is an individual's ethic reasoning of what ideally ought to be done to resolve an ethical dilemma. And this is called prescriptive reasoning. Again, moral, that is yourself. So this is what you want to be the resolving issue. This is how you want to resolve a dilemma. That does not automatically mean that it is ethical. While the outcome of ethical reasoning is the ability to make an ethical judgment of the ideal solution to an ethical dilemma. So this means looking at someone else and being compassionate and seeing that the only way we will get an ideal solution is for me to give in and be ethically ideal and meet the other person halfway. Once a person is aware of possible lines of action and how people would be affected by the alternatives, a judgment must be made without which course of action is more morally justifiable. Okay. This now proves that the solution that you should come to will be fair to each individual in this ethical dilemma. This is when you show your respect towards someone else and their beliefs and their differences and their different beliefs, their different moral compass. And you respect that, and therefore you will get the best outcome. Now, the moral focus. After concluding what course of action is best, decision makers must be focused on taking the moral action and following through with ethical behavior. Again, you are taking moral action, what you know is right, and following it through with ethical behavior, what normally is right, or what is socially acceptable as the right thing. Without any ethical intent or the motivation to take the next step, ethical decision making is not likely to occur. As previously mentioned, if the person does not want to, change their ethical reasoning, no problem solving will occur. It's one thing to know what moral reasoning methods direct a person to do, but it's quite another to do it. We see this almost every day. It's people that don't feel like they have to apologize for anything. They think that they are right. They have not. They see that they didn't have any intent to harm someone, but they did harm someone. But they do not accept the responsibilities for their actions. An individual's ethical motivation influences his or her intention to comply or not comply with ethical judgment in the resolution of an ethical dilemma. That is what we just discussed. Now, moral action. Individuals do not always behave in accordance with their ethical intention. An individual's intention to act ethically and his or her ethical actions may not be aligned because of pressures or biases that influence decision making. We will look at another way to discuss this, so just bear with me. So individuals with strong ethical character will be more likely to carry out their ethical intention with ethical action than individuals with a weak character because of the pressure. People with a strong ethical character, they can withstand the pressure from others. And this is the example I wanted to use earlier. Imagine considering blowing the whistle on your fellow teacher who stole money from a fundraising. So this now puts you in the educator's ethical dilemma. If you are strong in ethical character, you will blow the whistle on that person. You will know it is wrong, and what you do will be right when you give this person up to be, dealt with. But it is very difficult to always do the right thing because many reasons. But for example, being scared, having to face the consequences, maybe losing a friend, maybe losing, someone's trust. So it's easier said than done. Therefore, we come to the conclusion, ethical decision making is the heart of being an ethical person. Just by knowing what is wrong and what is right, try to, maybe if you find yourself always being, I don't want to say in the wrong, but if you are always, your opinions are always differ from the rest, maybe have a look at what is your ethical principles. And if you feel they're not all there, then you can always make a change. It's all about being kind and accommodating towards our fellow, workers, our students, our families, our friends. So it can only bring great comfort. And surprisingly, it doesn't come naturally for most people. So if you do get into an ethical dilemma, be patient with someone. Maybe they just need time to get there as well. And yes, always try to identify an ethical issue to take an ethical action. I want to thank you for your time. I hope this brought you some joy and that you could learn something. I certainly did. Enjoy your evening.